And we are officially back with the Miles Head podcast. I have been MIA. Sorry about that. I've been going through a rough time, and who other than Mr. Duey Freeman to help me work through this hard time. Been fortunate enough to be working with him. If you're on YouTube, you're seeing him right now. If not, you're going to hear his voice in a second. Uh, so we first inadvertently met at Naropa ages ago. You were
Yeah, that's
working.
wild.
I know. You're in the TCP program. I was in the Contingent program, and I had needed to reroute something from our printer to your office, and you were at the front desk, and I just thought you were like the front desk dude.
No, that works.
Yeah, and you're like the nicest front desk dude ever. Like you were engaging me and asking me about my day and what like about me, and I was like, man, this guy's really cool. And I got my stuff and left with my buddy, and I'm like, that guy's really nice. And he's like, yeah, that's the chair of the TCP program. I was like, oh. And then years go by, and then I started working with Connor Beaton and Trevor Boehm, and getting to know you better finally. And now we've been working together since I think October, and then now I'm doing our Art of Instinct and Intuition course, which has been amazing.
Very
Really cool.
cool.
Yeah.
Was it October? Was that just last October?
It
I
was right after 2 weeks after I blew my Achilles out. Remember, I limped into.
Oh, that's right.
That's the first time we like really got to know each other. Was
Yeah,
then.
yeah. Want to hear something funny about that? I don't know if I've told you.
Let's have it.
When you walked in, I could not I could clearly see that, you know, like your from your waist down to your knee
Hmm.
or your hip down to your knee, but you were facing me
Hmm.
and you were on I don't know exactly what it was called. You look like Captain Hook
Yeah, like
or
a peg
something.
leg thing. Yeah.
Yeah, the peg leg thing. And when I first looked at you, I went, "Oh, he just the rest of his leg isn't there." I didn't realize that your leg was bent and you were on your knee and sticking out. And I went, "Oh, I wonder how he's going to get around in here and how that's all going to go." So then I saw you from the side and I went, "Oh, okay,
There.
something
Yeah,
else
he's.
happened."
I think you, Dave, and Trevor were all like, "Is this guy? Did he step on an IED? Like, what's
Well,
going
actually, I had more than one scenario go through my mind. Yeah.
on?" Hmm. Yeah, going
And
to the
actually,
airport.
you were moving so well that
Yeah.
it was like, oh, he's he's been moving around on this for a while. So
I think a whole week at that point. I think it was so
yeah,
much better than crutches though, because I could use my hands as a great
yeah,
invention. You just strap your
yeah.
knee into it. Yeah, a lot of looks at the airport, coming to Colorado. That was fun. Not the brightest idea flying an airplane after 2 weeks post-op, but my doctor gave me blood thinners and it was all fine. So good times. But that was the start of the dark cloud that's been happening with me over the last 6 months.
Oh,
Um,
that weekend was?
well, not because of you guys, just because of the Achilles, and then the first 4 days were probably the hardest because I had to relearn everything, and then I sort of changed it in my mind that this is going to make a cool comeback story, and a lot of the funk left, and it was just like, oh, let me just do the rehab and things like that.
Hmm.
Well, more recently, I've had a just god awful, cruel creation of Satan sleep disorder return, where when I'm right about to fall asleep, I get this adrenaline rush and I burst awake. And it's either a brain zap from medications or it's this thing called hypnagogic myoclonus, which sounds like a psychedelic death metal band name. Uh,
Now, what people don't know is that we're starting a band. That this is
yeah,
the intro to that band.
yeah, it's a great title.
Oh,
That's what the neurologist said he thought it was. I'm like, it's a what? That's sort of like when you jerk awake in bed, sometimes you
yeah,
have
yeah,
a.
yeah.
But the problem is me is I don't my body doesn't move. It's my brain just has this adrenaline rush. So this all started like 5 years ago, and how you treat it was with a myriad of medications, nothing which worked. But the only one that did work was benzos, and benzos are nasty. It's nasty stuff. And so I
Yeah.
I've had a whole drama with that. I was tapering off, and then there's this whole issue with my doctors, and they try to put me on these other medications to treat the symptoms that were the rebound symptoms of anxiety and depression. It just set me back 5 years, and these brain zaps came back, and so I've had to go back up on the benzos, and that's been. I have a newfound respect for people that have going through psychiatric medication issues, mental illness, psychosis, addiction stuff, like a little peek under the hood. I mean, nowhere near as bad as that, but like, I've never felt like the day that I had the withdrawal symptoms, I felt the most anxious and the most depressed and the most depersonalization feelings all at the same time. I was sort of in a frozen state.
Wow.
Really, really scary. But then, I mean, I'm sort of recalibrating now, much better than
Hmm.
that. But it was pretty wild. And then about 2 weeks after that, one of my friends died of a heart attack. Um, his name is Marty. He's my uh, wife's cousin's husband, who we became really close, and we did a lot of things together. And he taught me a lot of things about manhood that I was sort of missing from my upbringing. He's like the big brother I never had in a way. And I had the honor of being a pallbearer, and there's nothing like literally burying your own friend. Like I lowered him into the ground. It
Wow.
was really surreal. And then he was Air Force veteran, so the Air Force Honor Guard came, and the whole flag thing and the salute and
Hmm.
taps, and it just makes me choke up thinking about it. It's really the way they do that, so respectful and so amazing. But it was very sad. But all this has happened in the last 6 months has been pretty rough. But
Sort
so
of
going through a
knocked
hard
your
time, and
foundation out from under you,
yeah, absolutely, absolutely,
literally.
yeah. So the main point of the podcast could be how to get through a hard time, and then is that maybe how do guys do that differently than women? And then I have all my Dewey questions for you and stuff that I want people to know about you because
Okay.
you, you are sort of like Gandalf up in Mount Doom somewhere fighting Sauron.
Maybe that's what I should name my ranch instead of the. We have a number of names for up here, but Mount Doom. Yeah, I think I'll refrain from that.
No, you're fighting Sauron. You're not in Mount Doom, but yeah, yeah, I sort of see you as that elder Gandalf or Yoda sort of type of person that I think a lot of men are missing, or at least a father figure or grandfather figure in their life that they never had. You know, certainly for me, that's sort of been the case. Maybe my dad is here, but my I never met his dad. His dad
Mm.
died on his first birthday in World War II, so there's a lot of father wounding going back. I have
Okay.
two fighter pilot grandfathers, both who died. One in Vietnam, one well, he survived Vietnam, but Agent Orange got him after. And my dad's dad was a Corsair pilot, Naval Academy pilot, and got shot down on my dad's first birthday. So he's got a lot of father wounds. So where does this carry down? You know, there's a lot of guys out there with father wounds. And so working with you, I've already gotten a little bit of that flavor of what that could have been like in healing.
Mm.
And I think a lot of guys that may be listening to this podcast, it could be helpful to get a flavor of that from you and also maybe work with you at some point, especially with the uncivilized group, Man Uncivilized and Connor Beaton and such. So
And the man talks.
yeah, Man Talks.
One of the things before you go on is I'm actually reading a book right now called Unbroken.
Oh, right.
Have you read that book?
I've seen the movie, but I have the book. I've been meaning to read it.
It it is mind blowing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And I forget her first name, Hildebrand's her last name. Forget the first name of the author.
Can't recall. You're
But it,
talking about the guy that got shot down, or no, was it World
yeah,
War
yeah,
II? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
got shot down and then 47 days in a raft and 2,000 miles of drifting in the Pacific, which actually, I mean, it's interesting because you and I haven't spoken about this. um, explicitly, but my father was actually in World War II in
Mm.
the Pacific
Wow. What was he doing?
on a little island called Baker Island, and which was the island that was a stopover for, um, going into all the other islands into just around Japan and the southern part of Japan. And so, um,
Was he a Marine?
now he's in the Navy
Maybe.
and built airstrips and repaired landing craft engines. And so, um, but he came back from World War II clearly with PTSD,
Mm. Yeah.
which affected me. I mean, um, it was only in my adult life that I been able to put all of that together. But yeah, it was a pretty big deal.
Yeah, and you have that, and then also the story of your mother who had, was it tuberculosis? Or
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah.
and you were separated for a while from her.
Yeah, 18 months, close to 18 months, 17 something.
So no
Which,
wonder.
interestingly enough, I was going through a bunch of stuff because old files and stuff, and I found um, newspaper articles about my mother, when I was reunited with my mother and the rest of my family. So, but the reason I'm speaking of all that is, that father wounding or loss, or maybe even sometimes the feeling of abandonment, even though um, when our fathers have gone through really horrible things, um, we may feel abandoned, and it may not be just that. So, and maybe our fathers are struggling mightily with their experiences in life and in the world.
Yeah, it's stuff gets sort of passed down. I think there's some famous Jung quote of, I'll butcher it, but the unworked stuff of the parent gets visited upon the kids or something like that. Like what
Mhm.
their
Yeah,
business becomes your business, basically, or something like that.
yeah, 100%.
So that makes me think of Travers. I don't know, in his book, Man Uncivilized. I don't know if it's ethos number 4, but your greatest gifts grow in the garden of your wounds.
Hmm.
I've been chewing on that one for a while, and maybe that's why you and I are both here. Especially you and your genius attachment theory model, which we got to get into. Uh,
Okay.
you were born into attachment wounding. Maybe that's part of the garden that's of the gifts that are growing amongst many
Yeah,
things.
and I think that we don't always know. I mean, clearly I was in my m- mid, actually early to mid 20s before I was even able to start looking at any of that.
Hmm.
Um, I just thought something was wrong with me, or I was on the crazy side, or where I would do really, really well, and then something would happen and I would snap, and just huge amounts of rage and anger would come out.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, fortunately, I had the wherewithal to not really take that, especially physically, not to take that out on anybody. But it was like I would spend time just going, where's this come from? I have no clue.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I felt similarly. And I don't know if I love the way you say contact instead of attachment, like disorganized contact, not attachment, because if you were attached, you'd be attached. Avoidance of contact or anxious of contact, of someone contacting you here emotionally. Um, I feel like maybe I have a flavor of a little bit of both. I've heard that disorganized attachment's rare, but it feels like the same thing you said. Like I felt crazy, like I'd be dating someone, and if they moved away from me, I'd be like, wait, come back. And if they got too close, I'd be like, no, get away. And then they get away
Mhm.
and they go, wait, come back. And it was just like, what is
Mhm.
wrong with me? So I felt like for a while I was really afraid of someone contacting me closely, or perception of them leaving me was really terrifying for me.
Yeah, for sure. Do you want me to talk about that just a tad?
Absolutely. And especially the part, what I did my master's paper and my PhD on attachment theory, and I've read all the books and all this stuff. When I came across your model, it's way better than all of them. And especially the part where about addictions, where you attach to the need if you can't attach to the person. That
100%.
specific bit blew my mind. I was like, oh my gosh, this has been the missing link of what I was trying to learn this whole time. So, yeah, feel free to jump in wherever you want with that.
Well, let me talk about this a little bit from maybe a little bit bigger perspective,
Sure.
because I think that I think that part of what's out there is, I mean, there's a lot of validity and value to what's out there, and I think it's somewhat misinterpreted and mistaught. Um, so let me talk about that just slightly
Sure.
for a minute or two. John Bowlby, who really is the one who put together the attachment theory to begin with, like originally, he did not use, and so the people know. I mean, this is really interesting. I haven't quite talked about it this way as we're talking, because so much of what you and I just spoke about our lives have come from World War II and how
Right.
we were affected.
Mhm.
Well, all the attachment theory stuff began again with World War II in England with John Bowlby. So um, it's sort of interesting how impactful that war was and still is. And that, you know, perhaps a lot of people are thinking, well, that was, 1945 when it ended, and, it's 2025. That's 80 years. But that really is still affecting, interestingly enough, both you and me.
Mhm.
And, we're at least one generation apart. So just age wise.
Mhm.
Um, but when Bowlby started, he did not start with either avoidant or anxious attachment. That's not what he spoke about.
Hmm.
He actually spoke about hyper or hypo activation.
Interesting.
So when he talked about hyper activation, that's what we're not calling um, anxious. But when if we think about what's going on energetically, if we can work with the concept of hyper activation, then therapeutically, what that does is go, okay, well, if it's hyper, then what we need to do is downregulate. If and Bowlby also talked about hypo activation, which is what we might call avoidant, and or what we are calling avoidant. I'll talk about how that came into the that terminology came in, is that if we're hypoactive, then part of what needs to do is that the energy needs to come up to regulate. So we're really talking about regulation
Mm.
in relationship as much as real attachment. So Bowlby didn't even talk about the disorganized attachment. Where that came from was Mary Ainsworth, who did all of her strange situation
Mhm.
um, experiments, which I think was also brilliant. And and Mary Ainsworth actually brought in. She switched the name of the hyper attachment or hyperactivation into anxiety, and hypoactivation into avoidant. Um, but to me, those when we talk about those in that sense, if I say I have avoidant attachment, that becomes a noun instead of a verb.
Ah,
Versus if I say right now, I'm working with a hypoactivated process, then it's a verb. So there's a fluidity to it.
I love that. It's not frozen in time, solid, static.
Right. Yeah. And it's not a label. What we're doing is we're naming a process versus labeling a person.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, and the same way with if we talk about hyper activation, we're labeling a process instead of labeling a person. Because as soon as we label somebody, then we're objectifying that
Objectifying,
person.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then we get ourselves stuck there,
Mm-hmm.
or at least potentially get us stuck there. What Ainsworth also found out was that in the strange situation uh, experiments that she was doing was there was a push pull with some kids where it was like they would go back toward their caregiver, but then when they got close, they would do, the come here, go away thing that you just
Yeah,
spoke about. So if from my perspective, if we can put all of that instead of even looking at avoidant, disorganized, or anxious, if the term I use is fragmented attachment.
that's interesting.
So, and that fragmentation can take place in a lot of different ways. And we were talking at the, beginning of this, and even before we started recording, about your father and grandfather and my father is when people are in war or when people go through very traumatic events, part of what happens is that they feel fragmented, which is a part of what, you and I mean, so our audience knows, you and I've talked a fair amount outside of this podcast, is that's part of what you were saying is I felt like, my insides were fragmented. Not that you were mentally ill or not that you were fucked up, but it was like things just weren't clicking. There wasn't an integration. So, um, and so what I look at is from sort of a fragmentation on one end to an integration on the other.
Mm.
So I look at this from a a continuum and a spectrum, and the truth is that we all slide up and down that.
That makes sense.
It's like, um, I mean, if I'm in a relationship, a very powerful, strong, committed relationship with a woman named Kimberly. If something happened to her, I would be a total mess.
Yeah.
And um, so again, when I'm looking at all of that, when I'm looking at that from a perspective of that whole process being a fluid, um, interactive, uh, dynamic process instead of a thing of where we're at. And and I do think that sometimes we and well, the other thing that you brought up is instead of looking, I use the terminology of fragmented and integrated,
Hmm.
and within that, what I look at is the whole concept of contact within that perspective. And today I might be able to make contact really well because I feel pretty integrated. Something else might happen, or I may be exhausted, or um, like 2 days ago, I hurt my calf and I was exhausted from a bunch of stuff I was doing. And it was like, oh, I'm sort of struggling here a bit. Doesn't mean that I've lost everything. It just means that that's what I'm doing right now. So what I look at is the process of being able to make contact. And are we anxious about making contact? Are we judgmental about making contact? Are we avoiding contact? Are we wanting contact on the outside, but on the inside we're going, no way? Um, all of those kinds of things. And what that does, at least from my perspective, it's much more um, available for one to be present and two to work with.
Mhm.
And in all honesty, I think it provides people with much more hope.
It really does. Yeah.
You know,
It feels like you're not frozen in time, or if you like, I didn't even think about that. If you're not feeling well and you're not, vibing well with your wife, you don't have to freak out and think, oh my gosh, my disorganized attachment's up today. It could just be I'm tired or whatever.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it might be, maybe my thoughts are disorganized. Maybe I'm not organized in my feelings or my emotional process or um, you know, like when you hurt your Achilles, that became the forefront. It's not that there was something wrong with you, but it just became the forefront because that's what happens.
Mhm.
And so um, the other piece with that I found to be really valuable, like in looking back, for instance, with my father and my mother both, is that their experiences in life were experiences that would probably make anybody in the world feel fragmented,
100%. Yeah.
you know? And when I look at it, my father was in the Pacific on Baker Island. They got bombed. He was building airfields. He was repairing landing craft. And he also got really sick. He got dysentery to the point to where he had to be shipped home and hospitalized, and he lost all of his teeth. They all rotted out.
Whoa. Oh my gosh.
And and then he fell in love about 2.5 years later. He and my mother had a child in early 1949, and which is my sister. My mother got pregnant shortly after that, like 3 or 4 months after my sister was born.
Mm.
Then halfway through my mother's pregnancy, she was diagnosed with tuberculosis. So at my birth, I was whisked away. There's my father left with a 1-year-old daughter and a newborn son, whose wife was maybe going to die. And which, at least in my view, that would fragment anybody inside. That would be very hard.
Yes.
My father was a long distance truck driver. He had bought his own truck, but he couldn't do that anymore because of his wife's situation, my mother.
Hmm.
And so he leased out his truck, and within a week, he leased it to a guy who wrecked it.
Mm.
So here's a man who lost pretty much everything he could lose.
Yeah. A few times over.
And when I look back, I go, huh, I wonder if could have done any better. I'd like to think I could have, but I'm not sure.
Right.
And the same way with my mother, who literally, couldn't hold her son and um, was wondering whether or not she was going to die. And in 1950, the antibiotics to cure tuberculosis had not been put together or discovered yet. And so that level of fragmentation in there, when I look at all of that, I see all of those situations as situations that are fluid,
Hmm.
and just the same as, you know, a situation that you've experienced. It's a fluid situation. You're not a, you know, this kind of an attachment issue. That's not who you are. It's not who any of us are.
Mm.
And so if we can start looking at attachment and this whole process as a fluid, as a verb, and I've even thought about changing some of the language I use. Instead of calling my stuff attachment theory, I might call it attaching theory.
Ah, genius.
And because we're doing that all the time, we're in the middle of that
Mm.
literally every minute of every day of building that. I mean, even to the point to where Kimberly, my partner, is at a work. I don't know. I'd say maybe it's called a workshop, but she's with Clarissa Estes, who wrote Women Who Run with Wolves,
Oh yeah, yeah.
and she's up there for 5 days. So, and we'd been camping, and she took off and went up there. I came home and unpacked everything, and then I pulled a muscle in my leg, and so I've been gimping around, and you know, and I'm still like, that's still a whole process of what is my process here around working through stuff? What is my process of working with our horses and taking care of stuff that, you know, we run a small ranch that it's really at least a 2 person, if not a 3 or 4 person ranch.
Yeah.
And, you know, what's my process in this? And um, if I can stay in the process instead of stagnating that process, instead of labeling that process, then it makes it, it's like, okay, this is what I'm doing right now.
I love it. Then back to the part about addictions and that cycle where if your need's not met, you attach to the need. And I was thinking about the book, The Five Love Languages. Have you heard that
Uh-huh.
before? I
Oh
always
yeah.
thought it should be called, maybe it's the five wound languages, because like, do I, do I need
That's
physical,
probably not a bad idea.
right? Like, is it really a love language, or is it just a need? Like quality time or physical touch? Like, am I craving that, or is that a love language? Like sometimes I wonder what's what. If I didn't get enough touch, is that really a love language, or just am I just like starving for that?
Well, actually, I like the way that you're putting that. I hadn't quite thought about it in those terms. I think that's pretty damn insightful. Is and the way that, if I'm going to riff off of that, the way I would put it is these different ways are the kinds of ways that I need contact,
Hmm.
because there's lots of different ways to make contact. But if I got really good, for instance, really good physical contact as an infant, I may go, that's actually what's going to help me attach to somebody. Or I may go, I got that, but actually I need some other kind of contact.
Hmm.
So, um, but yeah, I like your idea.
Write a new book.
The 5 deficits that need to, 5 buckets that need to be filled.
Exactly. Every day.
Yeah, no, I think it is. I think the other thing with those languages, and I forget them all because I know the book and I've
Mhm.
actually read parts of it. We need all of them.
We do, yeah. Was it quality time, physical touch, acts of service, words of affirmation, and gifts?
Yeah, yeah. And different ones of those create, I think, different levels of need. But yeah.
For sure. Maybe, yeah, let's flesh out the genius bit of your model. At least this is the part that was for me, was attaching to the need, and not the human. And that can set you up for attaching to
The,
substances or
yeah,
addiction.
the addictions.
And I think a lot of guys, especially, use that to de-stress. Connor's talked about this a lot about guys when they get stressed, they just need something to bring the stress down. They can't self-regulate, so they reach for nicotine, porn, drugs, alcohol, weed, blah, blah, blah. Is that endemic to humans in general, or is that an attachment wound together, or is it a bit of both? What do you think?
Well, here's what's interesting about this, and I love the way that Connor talks about this. So the general categories that I speak about. All right, I've actually been talking a fair amount this morning, so
Let's hydrate. Prost.
hydrating. Are food, which is what you're one piece you're sort of alluding to,
Mm.
touch, and movement.
Mm.
In utero, we get all of those three things all the time.
Mm.
We're being fed through the umbilical cord, we're being held, and we're always being moved. I mean, even when our mothers are asleep and she's breathing, and so we get this rhythmic movement.
Yeah.
Those three needs continue after birth, and I think they expand. Food is on a continuum. It's still food, but it's also nurturing. And nutrients and nurturing come together. I mean, they're the same root word.
Yeah, it's true.
Touch is, we need that, but that also can be expanded into contact. And contact is, I can give the definition of that in a minute. So we can get touched by somebody making eye contact with us. We can get touched by people go listen to a piece of music and go. I
Mm.
mean, I was just listening to this one piece of music last night and started tearing up.
Yeah. Happens to me all the
Here
time.
alone, I mean, me and my horses
Hmm.
and the coyotes,
Yeah.
and um, and then movement is not just physical movement, which we all need, but it's also emotion, which is emotion to me is movement of energy through our bodies.
Yeah.
So when we feel happy or we have anger, we feel angry or we feel sad, you can literally see energy going up and down through our bodies.
Mm.
And when we as infants bid for those three things. We bid for food, we bid for touch and movement. And all of the ways those things get expanded. When we're given that food, touch, and movement um, in contact and relationship by our parents, then we attach to the person giving those to us.
Which is the preferred move.
Yeah, that's what we're designed to do. That's what
Yeah.
we're wired to do. But we're so wired to attach that if we're given food, touch, and movement, and this is what Bowlby was brilliant at looking at, because part of what was happening, the way he came up with his theories, is all of these not infants, orphans
Oh, right. Yeah.
were in care facilities in Britain, and I mean, yeah, Britain, England, and they were dying,
Hmm.
even though they had been gotten food and, you know,
Diapers changed and all that.
diapers changed, but they didn't have the contact or the movement. They didn't have that relational process. And so we are so, and I don't care what word you use, designed or
Built.
wired
Mm.
or evolved into wanting contact. I'm wanting attachment, that if we don't get it from the people that are giving us food, touch, and movement, we will actually attach to the food, touch, and movement itself.
We got to get it somewhere.
Yeah, we definitely got to get it somewhere. And that's what addiction is from my perspective, is We are, um, most of the addiction stuff is it's very predictable. It's like I know that I can come home and drink 6 beers and I know exactly what will happen,
Hmm.
which means I don't have to be anxious or avoidant. I
Right.
don't have to have, hyper, hypo, or a mix of those activations.
Hmm.
It's like I know what'll happen.
So instead of co-regulating with a human, you're sort of co-regulating with a substance.
Right. But that can happen with everything. It's not just a substance. It can happen with work. If I
Mm-hmm.
am addicted to work, I know exactly what'll happen.
Working out.
If, yeah. If I'm working out, I know exactly what'll happen. If I'm, um, I mean, a lot of, for instance, Olympic athletes or really high level athletes are addicted to all of the chemical processes and that behavior,
Hmm.
and they know exactly what's going to happen.
Hmm.
Um, Same way if I'm addicted to porn,
Hmm.
I know exactly what will happen.
Seems like
You know,
it's a measure of predictability too. You want that to be predictably coming, just like a parents would, and you feel
yeah,
safe.
exactly.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. And so, um, because what I was going for as an infant, and this is where what I call a somatic interject, which is
Hmm.
we learn it without words and we feel it in our body,
Hmm.
is if we're laying in our crib and we don't get attended to, and before I say what I'm going to say, I want to say to all parents that you don't have to be perfect, just so that you know.
But don't do the cry it out method.
Yeah, don't do the cry it out method. That won't work.
That
That'll
won't work.
set somebody up for sure.
Yeah.
Um, but if we only have so many choices,
Mhm.
and so that's what we go back to. We end up feeling like, even as adult men or women, or we don't feel like we have a choice. We don't feel like we have a choice to say to our friends or partners or caregivers or, you know, husbands or wives or whatever relationship it is.
Mhm.
We don't have a choice to, and oftentimes we don't have the ability to wait.
Interesting. Yeah.
So, um, and we don't believe that if we wait, we're going to be, um, uh, that anybody's going to come,
Like soothing is coming. Yeah. Yeah.
right? And there's actually a place where it's actually called contingent eye contact. Have you heard of that before?
Huh.
Um, I'm trying to remember where that came from. I think it was, trying to remember if it was Bowlby or somebody after him. One of the things that where we connect so well and so deeply is if we as caregivers or parents are making eye contact with our babies,
Mm.
we're the one who are, we're initiating that.
Mhm.
Contingent contact, it's actually called contingent eye gazing, is when we wait for our babies to look at us. And so we're eye gazing and it's contingent on them leading it.
So we're, like attunement comes into play, I'd imagine here.
100%. But just think about this. If either one of us are little babies and we start gazing at our mothers or fathers, and then our mothers and fathers respond to that, that sets up an incredibly powerful process where a baby begins to learn that they have power
Mm.
and that they will be responded to.
And safety and trust and all the other things.
all of everything that follows all of that. Absolutely. So, and in the research, that only needs to happen 6 or 8 times a day.
Hmm.
And a lot of times that contingent eye gazing is only 30 to 40 seconds.
Mm.
Because, babies look away or babies close their eyes or,
Sleep.
they want the breast or they want their diapers changed but but that seems to be, at least in some of the current research, that seems to be one of the most important pieces is that contingent eye gazing of uh, knowing that we will be responded to.
Hmm.
Doesn't mean that parents can't initiate that too, but it that contingent eye gazing is a really big deal.
It makes sense, and it also makes sense for maybe mothers or fathers who aren't really good at attunement that will maybe force the eye contact on the baby, like, well, what do you need? And let me look at you. And like, it just gets like this smothering sort of,
Yeah, yeah.
it's like,
Hmm.
it's the wrong order of operations. I can imagine that happening too. Or just flat
Yeah,
out, just mom on the phone looking over here while the baby's on the breast. Like,
100%.
that's not good.
Yeah, 100%. And just think, I mean, even when I think in my relationship, and I'm going to guess in yours, what it's like to have our partners initiate that contact.
Mm.
Doesn't mean they need to do it all the time. It doesn't mean it has to be 24/7. But when Kimberly initiates contact, it's like, oh, that's very special.
Yeah. Yeah. Feels good.
So,
Very, I love this stuff. Well, I'd be remiss if I didn't now attach this to your work with horses because there's an obvious connection with horse work. Um, I had the fortune working with you at is it called Happy Dog Ranch? So
uh-huh.
remember when it was with the Uncivilized crew? Um,
Oh God, I
remember the
totally remember that. And that
yeah,
paddock with all the, yeah.
yeah, the medium sized horse that was just running around everywhere, and
Hmm.
you told me to go make contact, and you stopped the other guys and said, "Hey, watch this," and you walked me through a process of how to make contact with this guy who was freaking out. Everyone was at first everybody was trying to like touch this horse and save it or whatever, and it was just like get the fuck away,
And
interrupted other
and
horses,
I
and then
guarantee, and just for context for people, it was probably a paddock of maybe an acre, acre and a half. I mean, it wasn't huge, but it wasn't small either.
yeah, it wasn't.
And but there would be no way that, I mean, if we would have tried to confine that horse, there'd be no way that we could have.
And didn't you find out afterwards with the family or having dinner that it was actually a Mustang,
Yeah. Mhm.
which is a wild horse, and it's a whole other level of my gratitude towards you for helping me work with this guy. I felt so much healing and kinship with this guy. And you just did your intuitive Gandalf thing, and you're like, "Oh, Miles needs to work with this horse," and
Well, you had already started. All I did was pick up on what you had already tried to do.
was talking about, yeah.
Mhm.
How did, maybe you can walk through the listeners. I did speak about it on a previous podcast briefly, but I was still trying to make sense of like what did I just even do? Because you were walking me through it. I wouldn't have been able to make contact with this horse without you saying, stop, look for this sign, look for that. What are these tells with horses, and how, just kind of walk, maybe we can go back in time, walk the listener through what you were asking me to do.
Yeah, yeah. So if I were to put this in the realm of what we were talking about, that particular horse was hyper activated.
Mm.
Anytime you or anyone else was trying to get close,
It's like,
yeah, he would, yeah, exactly. That's exactly.
get away.
And Well, it wasn't so much get away. It was like, I don't know if this is safe.
There we go. Yeah.
And here are these people, and I'm trying to remember how many men we had in there. We had, what, 18 maybe?
About that. Yeah.
And there were about that many horses in there too.
Mhm.
But this particular horse was going, I don't know if this is safe. There are all these beings in here that I'm not used to.
Mhm.
And you could tell that this little guy was coming in and trying to make contact. But every time anybody tried to go up to this little guy, it was too much, too soon, too fast.
Yeah.
And it just overwhelmed his nervous system.
And you're saying he doesn't know where he belongs. You also said that. Doesn't
Right. All horses are wondering two things. Are they safe and where do they belong? All humans are wondering those same two things. Am I safe and where do I belong?
amazing.
And so, which is really cool because the bigger picture is that initiation, which was with Man Uncivilized, was 95% of the men in there were wondering, am I safe and where do I belong?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Which is very much the core of attachment.
Hmm.
So when what was happening with this little guy was I could tell that he was trying and he kept getting himself overwhelmed. Because he would stop and there was one particular place where he would stop where along the long side of the paddock and where when a horse stops at a particular place numerous times, that clearly is a place where they feel some level of comfort and safety.
Interesting.
And you were pretty close and you were actually trying to work with him. And all I did was lead you in and watch for all the signs of him being okay. And I'll go ahead.
I was just gonna say you you pointed out, I mean, his like head would go up or down, or his ears would turn, and that's where his eyes were looking, or his had that little whimper, and you said that was him sort of maybe releasing some energy, like these little
Yeah,
tells.
you could see different places where when a horse's like lower lip relaxes, their body is relaxing. When an ear is on you or an eye is on you, well, probably 95% of the time when you can tell where a horse is looking because that's where their ear is pointing. Um, and energetically, horses feel much more than we do. They're much more sensitive. I mean, that's how they've survived for close to 60 million years. And um, what we did was, and what you did really well was get yourself grounded. You got very grounded.
Yeah, I was
Which,
doing a lot of the Dr. Huberman physiological sigh of like bringing my anxiety
yeah,
down.
yeah,
Because I don't know if it's placebo or not, but I was anxious, but it felt like I could feel his anxiety too. And there was some sort of,
100%.
it was almost psychedelic in a way, like out of body experience or in body experience, I should say.
Yeah. Well, and both of you had that hyperactivity,
Mhm.
hypo. And when you began to bring yours down, you started helping him settle his nervous system.
Mm.
And what we were doing was a whole process of moving in slowly, even when you would move in a foot. And just so people know, you were like 20 to 25 feet away. I mean, you were not that close to begin with.
Correct.
And, but even when you would move from 21 feet to 20 feet away, he could feel that pressure
Mm.
energetically. So when you would stop and allow yourself to be grounded, that would release the pressure.
And you could tell by him lowering his head or the little whimper thing he was doing.
Yeah, yeah, like lowering his head, his eyes relaxing. You could see like his haunches relax, and he started moving away from that modality of where he was like tensed up and ready to bolt.
Hmm.
And so each time you would move in, we could watch for signs of him softening or him relaxing or him actually having fluid contact with you.
Hmm.
Because when somebody is ready to run, there's not much fluidity in there other than get me the heck out of here.
Yeah.
And so he started moving from a frozen state into a fluid state, which is what we were working on.
Okay.
You were able to go from, and I don't think you were nearly as frozen as he was,
Right.
but you were able to go from a tense state to a more relaxed fluid state. And so you were able to move in. Sometimes it was 6 inches at a time. Sometimes it was a foot or foot and a half at a time. But when the pressure would be so high, you could see he was getting ready to go, okay, I'm not sure what's going to happen. And you backed off. Then he would settle. And that helped him not have to be in that fight or flight or prey state.
Hmm. And slowly trust me to move in.
Yeah, and it was slowly, and we worked with you and him for you to go in incremental steps. And I don't know how long we were there. I was so just in the present, and so with you
Same.
and him. It might have been like 30 to 45 minutes.
Yeah, it was a time dilation. I have no idea.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was not 5 minutes, but it wasn't 5 hours.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Somewhere in between.
Hmm.
Um, and what was really interesting and watching is that the more confident you got, the more settled you got. And there was a point where you were actually pretty close. You were 4 or 5 feet away. And I didn't do it because I wanted to make sure that he stayed settled and that you stayed settled. But you probably could have just walked in from there
Mm-hmm.
because he had gotten to a point to where he was going, oh, this is okay.
Hmm.
Um, so, so all we were doing, I mean, this is a place where I talk about stuff like this being simple but not easy, is they're just moving in, watching for a reaction to the pressure, or it was actually we were watching for a reaction to the contact.
Yes. Yeah.
And if there was contact and he went, and numbers of times, all we had to do was just ask you to wait there and stay in contact. And when he could feel that, he would go, and then you could see him settle. And then we would essentially do that again
Hmm.
to the point to where he's going, oh, this contact actually feels pretty good. This is actually what I really wanted,
Yeah.
but I was afraid of it.
Yeah.
Because when you got in there, he really, like, he stayed with you for a long time.
Oh yeah. I usually just said to scratch where they can't get,
Yeah.
and it feels good, and
Yeah.
give them the horse hug and all that. Yeah. And then when we were working with another horse, I can't remember who it was. Maybe it was Traver and the horse. He kind of followed me after that, which was
Yeah.
a little interesting.
Once he found out that he was safe and you were okay and he could belong there, he actually made a really sweet attachment to you. And it was like, oh, finally, there's somebody I can follow and be okay. So here's a leader that's really good for me.
Which made me feel terrible when I had to leave. It's like, now who do I got here? But I'm sure
Well,
that
here,
he would probably would find some horse or horses there that he would be able to attach to, I'd imagine.
100%. And there's a very high likelihood that if you went back into that same herd with him, you may have to do that process again, but it would be a lot faster because he'll remember you.
Wow, that's incredible. Huh.
Yeah, horses only take 3 times to remember somebody.
Really?
Yep.
That is incredible.
And here's what's really cool about it, and this is actually what infants do in attachment, is we as adults try to attach through intellectualization, through talking, through um, sometimes through our breath, et cetera, et cetera. Well, horses, they're two primary things. And the way that they communicate is through body language and smell.
Huh.
So if you see two horses come up to each other, they literally smell each other. But what they're doing is they'll actually blow out air. Their noses will be together, and one horse will blow out air, and the other one will blow out air, and they're smelling each other's breaths.
Fascinating.
And like when horses, I've seen horses that have been apart for like even a year or a number of years, and they come in, and as soon as they smell each other's breath, they go, "Oh, I know you." And I mean, they know each other in other ways too, but the yeah, he would remember you.
That's amazing. Not just the clone I was wearing then.
No, they go right through that stuff.
They don't care.
They don't care.
Yeah, it was also fun to work with the ones your horses. What's what are your horses' names again? You have the big guy. What's
Well, I have a big uh, guy named Moondash who
that's right.
is sort of a red bay color. I have another quarter horse who's also fairly big.
Mhm.
His name is Dylan,
That's right.
and he's flea bit gray. He's white with little black speckles. And then I have a little white pony whose name is Spirit. So
Spirit wanted attention when we were working with Moondash. He
yeah,
is a she or he?
the
She would
two
roll.
big guys are geldings, and she's a little mare.
She was rolling around a lot. I think she wanted some attention when we were working with Moondash. She's
Yeah.
playing and rolling. It's like, wow, it's so mammalian. Like she just wants attention, or she's having fun, or just
Well,
playing.
yeah, horses get incredibly curious. They're incredibly playful. They're incredibly, they remember. And she's going, yeah, pick me, pick me, pick me.
Yeah, that's what it felt like.
And actually, 2 days ago, I did not ride yesterday because I'd hurt my calf and I wasn't sure I could get on. But the day before that, I rode and she came up. I was on Moondash just messing around up in the arena. And she came up and wanted in, and everything I did, she followed us. And then I went up next to her and leaned over because Moondash, for people who knows horses, Moondash is like 16'1" or 16'2". That's how tall he is.
Size, yeah.
And what that means for people who don't know horses, their withers, which is where their neck comes into their body, is 16 hands is 4 inches. So it's 1 hand, 2 hands, 3 hands, 4 hands.
Gotcha.
That's how they use. And so like 16'2" is 16 hands and 2 inches. So a hand is technically 4 inches. And Little Spirit is probably, I'm going to guess, 10 inches. I mean, 10 hands maximum.
Hmm.
So, which means their withers are 40 inches off the ground.
Hmm.
or 16 hands, whatever that is by 4 is 32, 64 inches, so 5.5 feet off the ground.
Hmm.
It's a big difference.
Hmm. Yeah, they're all great horses. They're very fun to be around.
They each have their own horseality.
They do. Oh, what else should I ask you while I have you here? I feel like with you, I could do like a 15-hour podcast, but also be mindful of your time. Um, you covered some good ground. Uh, I don't. We probably shouldn't touch it now, but you've been teaching us a lot about the Reichian and Gestalt modalities, which is sort of a lost art form that I hope makes a comeback. And I don't know if it's classified or not to say, but are you writing a book about some of this stuff?
Yes, I
Maybe.
am.
Haha, I can't wait.
Well, the cool part about it is I have probably 70 different pieces of writing, 72 or something like that. And I've gotten some people to help me. I'm working on helping to integrate those. Um, Kimberly, through her different things she's done, she ran into a woman who's a retired publisher.
Hmm,
Um, but she came down. We had a big meeting maybe 3 weeks ago. And this woman was amazing to go, this is what you need to do, this is how you need to organize, and so I've been working a lot on that. So,
brilliant.
and part of what I want to do, and this part is really dear to my heart, is therapy and personal growth have been taken over by, I'm trying to remember the person who sort of coined this term. I can't remember his name, by what's been called the psychological industrial complex,
Great term.
which is everything has to be evidence based, everything has to be done in 6 meetings because of insurance companies, and
Short-term therapy, blah, blah.
yeah, and the art of therapy, the art of relationship has gotten lost. And the term psychotherapy actually means soul healing or healing of our
Hmm.
souls.
Hmm.
And that's gotten hijacked. It's um and even gotten in some therapeutic modalities, you know, it's called, you have this file in your head and you have this file in your head, or there's in different modalities of where people are talking about different parts, and it's like, I do think that there are different aspects of us, which is a big part of Gestalt,
Hmm.
but we're not pre-labeled.
Right, of course. Yeah.
It's like I might say, oh, well, this part of me this or this part of me that. Um, but whatever I say those are, that's, uh, you know, we're not pre-labeled with certain terms of here's your protector, here's your firefighter. It's just like we're not that mechanized.
Yeah, it's not so cut and dried. It's useful language, but yeah, it's just not like there was a inborn aspect to you. I do like IFS, but I do see where you're coming from when it does borrow heavily from Gestalt and Jungian and other and probably Reichian aspects as well. I mean, it's useful, but I can see where it can get kind of boxy, where you get really heady and you categorize all these parts and you have these like people living in your head, and you're stuck in your head. You're not working with the body as much, where all the
Right.
stuff lives. That could be a hang up.
Well, and again, when I talk about fragmented or integrated attachment, there's a lot out there with IFS and different parts work where the goal is not necessarily to integrate.
That's interesting.
And and the and even Dick Schwartz, and this comes directly from him because I've heard him say this, is that um, all of us are. This is a quote from him. This is not what I believe.
Hmm.
Is that all of us have multiple personality?
Hmm. Like dissociative identity disorder, light.
Yeah, that's sort pretty much.
Hmm.
And and it's like that doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, it's the
And
opposite of
it's,
what Jung said. You were trying to go for wholeness, right? To bring things back together. Isn't that kind of the thrust of Gestalt in a way too, to bring the pieces back to
yeah, I mean
wholeness?
that's actually what Gestalt means is the whole.
Hmm.
And the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. And interestingly enough, there's a lot of overlap between Jungian work and Gestalt work.
Yeah, you can see that.
Both modalities come in a little bit different ways, but
Sure.
um, I think what I have found is the integration between Jung, Gestalt, and Virginia Satir's work.
Hmm.
It's like the overlap is profound.
Hmm.
And then what Reich did was bring in all of the body and energetic stuff. And even Gestalt was the first somatic therapy. The first therapy that worked with somatic process.
Fritz Perls.
Yeah, it was actually Laura Pearls who
Oh,
brought that in.
oh,
Laura Pearls
interesting.
and she brought it in through dance.
No way.
Yeah, way.
Look at that. I used to be a
Uh,
modern dancer, so that makes me feel good.
oh, really? Oh, that's really cool.
Prior life, yeah.
That's super cool. I didn't know that.
Mhm.
And so, um, the whole idea of coming in and integrating all of who we are is, to me, very powerful. And the whole concept, like an integral number, is one number. It's not. An integral number is a number that can only be divided by itself
Mm.
and come up with a whole number. Um, that's not right. I said that wrong.
Made sense
Let
to
me
me.
say it different. Let me say it differently. What were you going to say?
Somehow it made sense to me.
Well, you can divide any number by itself and come up with one. If you two goes into two once, but let me make sure I get this right.
You're taking me back to stats, which was not fun for me.
All right. Well, my first studying was mechanical engineering and physics, so I should know this.
Oh
But
wow,
it was
look at that.
like it was it was 50 years ago. Is an integral number is can only be divided by itself and come up with a whole number.
Okay.
So if you divide, for instance, 4 by 2, you come up with a whole number, which is 2. If you divide 3 by 2,
Not
you come up with 1.5,
gotcha. Okay.
which is not a whole number. So, so 3 would be an integral number. 1 is an integral number. So, but what we're trying to do is be one. We're trying to be integrated. We're trying to be one whole
Hmm.
and be able to access all of ourselves by choice at any time that we want. I mean, to me, that's how I would define health
Yeah.
is that everything that we do is by choice versus through reaction.
Yeah, I remember you saying once one of your goals is to try to show up as yourself in almost all situations, sort of authentically and not fragmented off in certain contexts. You just kind of be you.
Yeah, what I try and do is I don't have a therapist hat and a husband hat and a friend hat and
Right.
it's like I'm not any different hanging out with if you and I are hanging out as friends, I'm not going to be any different with you than I am with Kimberly, that I am as a therapist.
Mhm.
I don't change. My voice, like people, I see people all the time. It's like they put on their therapy voice and it's like, oh, Miles, I'm curious.
I know exactly what you mean.
And it's like, if I want to know how you are, it's like, how the fuck are you, Miles?
Exactly.
Doesn't
Which,
matter whether you're in a, and
uh,
just so everyone knows you're not my client, but
right.
if you,
If I
if I,
was,
if you were, I wouldn't, if I see you, you know, when you come into class, it's like, how the heck are you, Miles?
which
Come into
I
therapy
so love.
sections, how the heck are you?
I so appreciate that. I know what you mean when the therapy voice.
Oh,
My wife works for the health insurance company, and she has to vet therapists that want to join the network. And there's a lot of female therapists, but the male therapist, she's always like, they just seem so distrustful. And she calls them like the men with the soft hands and cardigans. Like they have this like this look,
yeah.
this like archetype, and she's like, "You're not like that." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm not. I'm trying not to be like that." Which I why I gravitate towards you, towards Connor, towards Traver is we're trying not to do that and bring therapy to men back in a way. I mean, there's a whole other conversation there, but
Well, one of the pieces, this is really interesting. And I actually earlier today, there's a person I spoke with, and this will come out in a different venue, but it's like, and I really, I'll go back to both what Connor and Traver speak to. I really like what Traver speaks to. And one of his first tenet is be unapologetically male.
mm,
And and I don't do the thing of and I don't do it for a bunch of reasons. But Jung talked about masculine and feminine, but he talked about anima and animus. And but out there sort of in the therapy world or coaching world, it's like if it's like if a man is kind, that's his feminine. If a woman is strong, that's her masculine. And I don't that's not my paradigm.
mm,
Um, if a woman is strong, I see that very much as her being a strong woman. And if a man is kind or gentle, I that's a man being gentle.
right, that's different.
And like if I think it's disrespectful to say to a woman, "Oh, you're strong and that's your masculine," instead of going, "I love your feminine strength."
Yeah, that just lands differently, doesn't it, when you say it
Yeah.
that way? Yeah.
Or if a man is kind and gentle, then it's like, I love how kind and gentle you are as a man.
Hmm. It feels
And
good.
the example I use, and I've actually experienced this twice, is a mama bear with cubs. If she's threatened or cubs are threatened, she doesn't go, let me pull in my masculine bear here. I guarantee you that that's not what she's thinking.
No, she'll tear
It's
you a
like,
new ass.
yeah, it's like you mess with me, you mess with my babies, I'll kill you.
Yep.
There, and it's like, okay, I get it.
Yeah. 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 She's not thinking about her animus at that point. She's coming after
That'd be true. Well, nor is she thinking about, well, I want to pull in my really strong masculine. Like she's just doing what she does.
you. Yeah.
And 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 with women that I know some really strong, powerful women.
Mm. Hmm.
And that when any of them are strong and powerful, I cherish that.
Mm.
and it's a different energy. And I know some really strong, powerful men. I know, but the energy's different. So let it be different. Let it be okay to be different.
Right.
I know some really kind, nurturing women, and I know some really kind, nurturing men. But the energy's different.
Hmm.
And let that be different, and celebrate both.
Hmm.
And celebrate anything that's in between those. It's okay. Like we don't have to pretend like it's something different than it is.
And how do we invite more men to become therapists? I mean, there are a lot of men becoming coaches now, which is good, but it just seems like less and less men are signing up to become psychotherapists. I don't know why that is. Um, what do we do about that?
I think men are not signing up to be psychotherapists because, in general, the psychotherapy world has turned into um, the grit has been taken out of it.
Yeah, I feel that. It's a man
And
with the
it's
soft
like,
hands.
yeah. And it's like, it doesn't mean women can't have grit too. I don't want to portray that. But again, the energy around that's different.
Mhm.
And I taught in 4 years for University of Northern Colorado. I don't know why I was going to say California. I taught 31 years for Naropa.
Mm.
And I got a lot of pressure to be one of those guys with cardigan sweaters and soft hands.
So,
And
so did I.
and it's and not to put men down that wear cardigan sweaters.
Of
It's like,
course, there's going to be a place for them, of course. Yeah.
but what was really interesting was I could not do that. I
Hmm.
I just could not do that.
Hmm.
I couldn't get confluent with that, and I would get a ton of pressure to be that.
Right.
But then, and I mean, you went to Naropa, you know that it
Yep.
was at the beginning of it when people were signing up for classes for the semesters. It was all online, and it all opened up at 8 o'clock a.m. whatever day it opened up, and my classes would fill by 8:03 or 8:04.
Hmm.
So it was like I must have been doing something right.
Yeah.
And because if we as men can bring in a really strong kindness and heartfelt contact with others and create openings for others to step into, and then we'll be available for contact when they do. That's some of the most powerful things we can do.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And um, it's also, I think, one of the kindest things we can do.
Hmm. Agree.
Being a man that collapses is not kind. That's not kind to other people.
It feels like there's a lot of that's happening. I mean, it's probably central to the nice guy archetype as well,
Yeah.
collapsing.
But on the other hand, we don't want just that rigid
The Marlboro Man.
man out there that, yeah, the Marlboro man that just wants to judge and ruin everybody's life. That's not any more helpful.
I love those two archetypes that Traver put in his book,
Yeah.
Marlboro Man and the sensitive New Age guy. Yeah, that seems to.
Yeah. He's done a really good job of that.
I was just texting with the other day. He just got out of his darkness retreat. That guy, he's just done a really hard thing. Uh,
Yeah.
First time was 28 days. This was 49 days. I hope to have him on a podcast soon. And since I've been going through this hard time, I picked up his first book, Today I Rise, which is about him going through his divorce. But if you look at it, it's also sort of like going through a hard time in general. It doesn't have to be about divorce.
Yeah, totally.
It's been great. I mean, today was a good one. because it was about humor. And he's like, sometimes life just hands your ass back to you. And he was the chapter of the book of the book or the chapter that I'm reading. The title was "Shitting the Bed," and he's
Oh,
talking about how he's just going through this really hard time and everything's going wrong, and he just sprang for some cheap Chinese food, and it made him sick, and he literally sharded and shat the bed.
oh, wow. That's not
It's,
good.
no, it's like, but sometimes you just have to use humor to get through the hard time, and it was very helpful for me today because I woke up kind of still in this funk. You know, these
Uh-huh.
medications just do weird things in my head. So I was so happy for that. And he was very nice, and he sent me a advanced copy of his book so I can read it before it comes out, which is cool.
Oh, cool.
He's doing some good things. Speaking of men doing good things for men, I mean, him and Connor have done so much, and you and Dave Boyd and these two Man Talks and Man Uncivilized. I just it's a start of a great movement that I hope stays. I just hope it plugs in with the psychotherapy, like our world,
Uh-huh.
a little bit more. You know, it's doing wonders with the coaching world, but it's not plugging in super well yet to our world. I know that you and Connor got to go to the psychotherapy network or conference together,
Uh-huh.
and Connor got to speak, which I thought was fantastic. I mean, I hope he was well received because his work has been great too. I just hope this movement reaches our field a little bit more because right now it's like if you talk about men's work, you're somehow supporting the patriarchy or something. It's like we're not putting women down. We're just trying to balance the table here. It's a little bit cattywampus.
Yeah, the big thing for me with all of that, whether it's coaching or therapy, is what can we do as people to not objectify the other? And that's what patriarchy does. Patriarchy objectifies. Much of the pushback on against patriarchy right now is also objectifying.
Flush that one out a little bit. Say more.
Well, if all men are bad, or if you're a man, so therefore you're this, that's
Yeah.
an objectification.
Yes, you're saying. Yeah, exactly.
And, when there's and that's not good for anybody. So patriarchy is not just not good for women. It's actually, and I know this is going to be controversial, me saying it, it's actually not good for men either. Because if we buy into that, we have to objectify ourselves to be in that.
Hmm. Touche. Yeah, touche.
And and I just did a thing on Substack. I have to put together another article, but on patriarchy and isolation and suicide.
Mm.
And the um and it was prompted by a family that I'd worked with like literally 25 years ago, where I worked with the father and a son. The father was a psychologist, and son, who was late teens, who came out and did a family father-son intensive with me. Then I ended up working with the whole family. A few years after I'd worked with them, that son was actually, and nobody was quite sure, but they believed that he suicided. Um, and I hadn't had contact with him for a long time. So I'm just saying that so that people know it wasn't like a week after I worked with him.
Right.
Um, and then the father actually, and this is heartbreaking, on his 30th wedding anniversary with his wife, he had a fatal heart attack.
Man.
Then more recently, his wife died of cancer, and they had 3 sons. The middle son suicided, and all of that. It was like, so out of those 5 people, only one person's still alive, and I mean, this was a pretty high level family who lived in the Midwest, and it was like the devastation of the isolation with the father and the 3 sons is like overwhelming.
Absolutely.
And so, and the level of isolation and suicide among men, and whether it be veterans or
Mm.
first responders or men that just are isolated and lost, it's just that's in my view a result of the patriarchy. It's not good for anybody.
It really isn't. That sort of brings us full circle about going through a hard time and how guys may do this differently. Is I think we do hide out. I mean, I've not even, self-disclosure with what I'm going through. I found myself withdrawing from like the guys that I know more with like just going into a cave almost and like
Hmm.
not wanting help and not letting people help me, or I don't even know why yet. I'm still trying to flesh out why am I retreating, sort of like an animal going off to die and alone somewhere.
Hmm.
That's what
Yeah,
it feels
no,
like, and but it's so
no,
lonely.
that's it's accurate. It's true. And I mean, even I pulled, like I said a couple days ago, I was getting grain and supplements for my horses and was lifting 50-pound bags. And I don't know how I did it, but I pulled something on my left calf. And it was like, and Kimberly is gone for the week. And it was like, you know, it crossed my mind briefly to call somebody. And it was like, I can fucking do this.
Right, exactly.
And, and I did. But had it been worse, I would have called somebody. But
Mhm.
I do think we have a tendency to isolate, and
Mhm.
which is not good for any of us.
No, it just hurts more. I think there's maybe a fear of judgment or being seen as weak or less than, or maybe they'll trust me less because I'm not perfect or something. There's some
Yeah,
weird
all of
cultural
the,
messaging going on that's not healthy.
or we're just supposed to buck up and do it. So
Yeah, and then I overload my wife with my existential shit too, and then she's all stressed out and like, great, I'm making her sort of like mommy in a way. That's not good. Like, I need to back that off. Like,
yeah, totally. Yeah,
it's
and then when we do that, our wives, they may be good moms to us, but then everything else goes away.
it all goes away. Yeah, that's the rub. I keep hearing a stat going around that I think it was on Connor's podcast, Chris Williamson's podcast, that men need at least 2 nights a week with their buddies just to hang and chit chat or whatever. And there's a sort of a male loneliness epidemic going on. I think maybe there's some truth to that. And
No,
there's some other stats about how many close friends do you have, and a lot of guys said one or zero.
yeah, yeah, totally. Yeah, my life has totally gotten way better since I've done a bunch of stuff with men.
Hmm.
I don't know that I hang out with men twice a week, but I I have some really, really, really good male friends,
I
and
think
it
it's very
has
helpful.
changed my life. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
really good thing.
So I'm so happy you've been doing a lot of work with you guys and Traver, Connor. I think they're doing a good service for men, and it seems like if you take Traver's archetypes of the sensitive New Age guy and the Marlboro Man, you're sort of bringing them back to the middle, shedding what's not good, but what they can teach each other about each other into some sort
Yeah,
of
totally.
wholeness. And then you have that's healthy masculinity right there. It's the
Yep.
intersection of those two archetypes. That and it's going to take some time, probably. Well, I don't want to keep you too long, but because I can, because I will, because I love talking to you. Maybe we'll do a
Yeah.
redo at some point, I hope.
Yeah. Let's also, I mean, my experience is people listening to podcasts only can listen for so much. It's probably better to break them up a little bit.
Probably true. I'm not one of those guys. I listen to like Jocko podcasts, and sometimes they're like 5 hours. And like, this is cool. And other people are like, they tell me, are like, could you make your podcast like 20 minutes or 30 minutes? Because I just, it's my car ride, and that's it. I'm like, that's going to be too hard for me.
Yeah, I don't. I like something sort of in the middle.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like, what are we at? An hour and a half right now? This is perfect.
I don't know. I didn't keep track, but
I'm just looking at the clock here.
yeah.
Well, good.
Oh yeah, it is up there.
It's up at the
Got
top.
it.
Yeah. So going through a hard time, guys, connect with people. You're writing a book, which is awesome. If people want to connect with you, I know I've seen some of your social media posts spring up. You're on Instagram and YouTube, and not YouTube, Facebook, correct?
Facebook. Yeah, and I'm on Instagram, Facebook. A dear friend of mine named Mark Sylvester and I have done
Mm, the Elder
this is
Council.
on the Elder Council. So you get and I also run another way to get a hold of me is I have a website, deweyfreeman.org. I also have uh, the Gestalt Equine Institute, where we're teaching therapists to work with horses and
I'll
peoples.
I'll link all that, and I'll also link Connor's and Traver's stuff since you're linked in with them too.
Yeah, I'm connected with both of them. Both of them are great organizations. Both
Mhm.
of them are great men. Um, what's nice is for me is I get to learn from them as well as
Mhm.
learning from, we share
Mhm.
is a good way to put it.
It's great. Yeah, the I love the idea there doesn't have to be competition. It's like a synergy. Like all what's that saying? All tides raise the boats or whatever. I can't.
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that. And yeah, that's
Tide raised all the boats. Yeah,
yeah. I think that's what's
whatever that is.
whatever that is. We're raising the boats.
Yeah, exactly.
So people can find you to get direct healing, and people can find you also to get didactics, which is cool, and get like if you're a therapist or a coach.
Yeah, and people here's where I'm at, so people know is I'm not working with individual clients any longer.
Right.
What my goal is to teach coaches and therapists. Um, and this is for anybody, not just men,
Right.
because I have a very strong ethic where I believe men need to work with men and women need to work with women and men.
That makes sense.
We need both.
We do.
And um, so, I mean, I run a bunch of different courses. One of the main courses I run is the Art of Instinct and Intuition, which you're part of. And the goal of that is for people who are experienced therapists and or coaches to come in and be able to raise their level.
Mhm.
Um, so, and the same way with the Gestalt Equine Institute, I want people to raise their level.
Mhm.
Same way with, uh, like one of our other courses is mixing my developmental and attachment model and integrating it with Wilhelm Reich's models. And then I'm also teaching various courses on how to work with men, both with Connor and with Traver.
Yeah, that's where I was. People, if they want healing with you, would probably find it. But you also do a couples thing with Kimberly, correct?
Yeah, Kimberly and I do couples intensives,
Hmm.
and um, we're actually behind on scheduling those right now. So Kimberly is also a therapist, just so people know.
Hmm.
She's very, very good.
We'll have her on the podcast soon. I hope.
Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be lovely.
I'm looking forward to it.
Cool.
Well, good. I'll put all the links in the show notes so people can click away and take the path they need to take. Much gratitude towards you. Thanks for helping me through my little mini hard time. I know pain's relative. There are people going through way worse stuff, but it's been unfun. But just synchronistically, I have you in my life right now. So thank you for being around.
Well, and also I just want to acknowledge you, Miles, for one, your vulnerability and your openness with all of this, and also with wanting to learn more as a therapist.
Mm.
And I would say that I think I I don't know that I can think of some things that are worse than not being able to sleep, but not many.
Yeah.
And so yeah, don't discount what you've gone through. I mean, you've gone through some pretty tough shit here. So,
Yeah. It's,
and you're clearly coming out of the other side.
yeah, you've seen me over the weeks. I mean, that makes me feel better. It's hard to see my progress. It doesn't feel like it's gotten that much better, but I guess it has. But yeah, thanks for saying that. And the point of this podcast is also to be relatable. I don't want to be trying to be buttoned up or, like you said before, put my therapist hat on and sound all
Right,
fakey
exactly.
like and
Exactly.
not the point of. I've always been open on this podcast, and uh, it's probably also kind of strange for my patients to hear, but I think they appreciate it too. So therapy is not like that, but
Everybody that we work with needs to know that we're human.
there we go. It's so true. Yeah, it's a hard
Yeah.
job. It's a hard job.
Yeah, totally.
You
So,
get it.
so thank you, sir.
Say it one more time.
I said, thank you, sir.
Oh, you got it. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the next ones. And I'll see you next weekend for our course. But if this helped anybody, please share all the things. What does Connor say? Man it forward or human it
Yep,
forward. And also, doesn't don't you guys Uncivilized Group have a women's retreat coming in October, right?
we do.
Yeah. So to the women listening, there is something for y'all out there too, which would be
Yeah,
great.
and so people know where that comes from is all of the partners and friends and I think sometimes even sisters, wives, who, when they saw what the men that they were connected to came back with, they were going, will you do one for us? Will you do one for
Yeah.
us? Where's ours? And it's like, okay,
Yeah.
well, here it is.
I could totally see that. Everybody I see, I'm always like, you need to go to Connor or Traver's retreats or both. Like I just hope everybody can do it because it's like sitting with the Jedi Council almost. Like go have the famous most healing guys in the world, Michael, Gay, and you, and it's just like absolutely healing and amazing. And then the part with the horses is just you can't beat it. It's just absolutely incredible. So that's my hope for everybody.
Great. Thank you so much.
You got it. All right. Well, I'll see you next week, and to be continued.
To be continued.